Don't forget to suck some titties.
Now we got war. Yeah, it's not a great way to start the pod. This Iran and Israel thing, it's odd. Because I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the deep history of Iran and Israel. There is this weird aspect going on where basically what I just heard before I started the podcast, and this is not a political podcast. I'm not going to give any political takes. I'm just relaying that if we don't tell Israel to, hey, relax, there's going to be some strong retaliatory consequences, and we'll be responsible for it. And this is our problem, you know. We get involved. All of our countries are too involved with each other where some that has very little to do with us, even though, I don't know, it probably does, but who knows. And somehow now, think about how crazy it is that these other countries, they're bombing each other all the time. And yet, I don't want to jinx it, but we never get bombed by other countries in recent history. Maybe it's a fear, maybe because since they know we have a great military and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just odd. Like, you think we're enemy number one of the world, but also number one ally. Why would it someone, if they're making a statement, do it? Maybe we have such good defense, but it seems like these other countries have good defense, military, and they're still getting bombed, you know? It's, I don't know. It's odd. Because, to be honest, the only reason why I even listen to it is to be informed of whether to go long or short on Microsoft. That has nothing to do with anything, you know? And it's odd that there are people all the time, these global wars. When we have our global wars, our global disasters, we have global epidemics, there's people making a whole lot of money off it. And it just goes to show part of an economy and this system we've created across the world, anything that involves currency, is that it is designed for there always being a way to make money. When things are great, you can make money. When things are worse, you can make a lot more money. It's always people profiting off places being at the lowest where we are forced to ask for help. And so, yeah, I don't know, you know, I found that kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't even know what episode this is, like 344 of the Offbeat Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, most important ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. Recording this June 16th, 2025 at 2:11 p.m. for the archives. You know, it's weird. What I might start doing, I might start posting some, like, people, they do re-uploads or flashback of, like, my archive, my best episodes, I believe. It's weird. I went down a rabbit hole, and it was not on purpose. I was going through some analytical stuff, and just for the heck of it, once in a while, I'll listen to a random old-ass episode I did 4 years ago. And it's weird because in the past, it always felt so cringe, right? Like, oh my God, what a tryhard. Then now I listen to it, and it's like, I felt like I heard it completely different last year, the year before that. And yeah, it's kind of cringe. It's slow. It's methodical. It's, you know, it's a whole different thing. You could hear, but the thing, I was listening. It's weird to listen to yourself, but it's weird to hear how much you've changed. And there's things I miss about myself and things I'm okay not. That desire and infatuation of being driven when you find something like your purpose type of thing, you can hear it. And you can't fake that. And the audio, believe it or not, was better when I used a free audio, Audacity. The audacity of my audio being audaciously worse. And it's odd that over time, when I was listening to the show, I'm like, God, that kid, that little kiddo. It was almost like listening to a son of mine that I haven't had yet. It was like you just see how fun, how excited. You can feel the joy. You can feel the rejuvenation of life in that person. Even if they didn't have a clue what the hell they want to talk about or anything like that. I was just listening to it and I'm like, at first I was like, oh my God, what the fuck am I talking about? And then as I'm listening, I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm going back in the past and putting myself in that seat. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have done it where you literally vividly remember where you were. Like if you listen to a video of yours or you watch a video yourself, you recreate that day feeling. And I remember where I was, what I wore, how I sounded, what shape I was in, what time at nighttime I did it. I remember everything that built up to it, everything. And I was so proud of myself. I even said it in the first episode. I'm like, God, my nose is itching because it's goddamn energy drink. I promise I'm not crying. But I was listening to myself and I'm like, wow. It's almost like you don't want to recreate and try to find that again because you got to be able to recreate a new purpose and recreate a new joy type of thing. Anytime you try to recapture an old version of yourself, it's not impossible, but you're actually moving backwards because you think it's a better version of yourself, but really you need to create a better version of what is you already at that point in life. There are things about that version of myself where I'm like, damn, I wish I was that angry all the time. I had this episode. I'm going to repost this episode 28. I think it was a bicycle. I went on a 45-minute rant about bicycles. The original vision of the show was just me being awkward, corny puns, and going on these audacious rants about nothing of significance, but I'll be honest, I was probably trying to do like a Bill Burr type of thing. Not be as funny as him, but like find those things that everyone finds aggravating, but you just say it. And I went on a 45-minute rant about bicycles. And to be honest, I was listening and I'm like, I still feel that way. Like, fuck these bicyclists. I had a take, like you listen to some of your old takes, I'm almost proud of them because I'm like, I wouldn't even think about that anymore. Like, I'm not as sharp-witted. I'm not as observant. I'm not as, like, I have to seek out those things now, right? To have those takes. Before, like, all it take was like a 5-minute situation. I got 50 minutes of content, bro. 10x it. 10x my return on my investment. That's what my old rants and takes. All I knew was 5 minutes of life experience and you got a whole show. And now, bro, it's like, I look at news. I give my opinions about things I see, but it's not really living life. So the whole point is I've been doing this podcast for over 4 years now, literally. 4 years and a week. I'm so proud of myself, not necessarily because it's the biggest show in the world or nothing like that. One, because I stuck with it, even through trials and tribulations. Two, I do feel like even though I was more passionate and even though I had more like crazy takes about shit and I could take an inch and take it a mile, and there are parts I wish I still had of that, and I think we all do. The whole point of this little sector of the pod right now is I think we all seek to have the youth part of us, the, middle-aged woman that wants that fat, thick, luscious butt again, us guys, you know, we want that. We want to get rid of that tummy fat so we can see our fat, luscious cock, you know. But, you know, it's like, maybe the goal shouldn't be to see that fat, luscious cock. It should just be, you know, I just want to feel good. You know, I should just not want to carry all that extra weight. And that's the crazy part. It's weird. I'm talking about my podcast within a podcast. It's like this whole simulation we're doing right now, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, you know, I think it's always good once in a while, because sometimes you get so wound up in the next thing. Sometimes it's okay just like reset yourself of like remembering like there are things that like I want to bring that part of the show back. Like I want to bring that energy that I'm ready. Like when I turn on that mic, bro, like I am ready to just go off about something. You know, and some I admit I need to do more of again. I used to write down my takes on a piece of paper. And not necessarily like play, but just had these like, I would read articles, get my full observation, bullet points. And it was just like good to have it. I felt prepared. And I did the episode 4 or 5 times a week. I can't sustain that now. Well, I could now. But I did it 4 or 5, 6 times a week. I can't sustain that type of posting schedule, you know. But at the same time, man, like I look at that and I'm like, I need that back. I need that dog fucking energy, bro. So I don't know. It's okay, you know. I think I'm more mature in some ways. And by the way, yeah, I got a new background. That's real. That's a desk. It's not a wall with a moldy scratch on it. That's a real desk. That's my desk. Desktop. And when I'm on it, top. But it's just beautiful, you know. As things change, as time changes, the one thing you've got to be okay with is the fact that you will never change. Because it's just different versions of ourselves, you know. Yeah, I don't want to keep going on about myself. But I just thought that was interesting. I wonder if that's what it's like, you know, here. I'm about to compare myself to Kendrick. I wonder if that's what Kendrick feels when he listens to Good Kid Maad City. You know? Like, when he listens to Good Kid Maad City, he's like, man, I miss that version of myself. He's like, nah, I used to collab with Drake. Fuck that. It's like, there's probably versions of Good Kid Maad. You know, people always say, like, the first album, the second album, that is the first album, especially for most artists, especially if they pop off of it. It always is their best music because that's the music they created before they had any distractions. When it was all about the purity. They didn't have to worry about tour dates. They didn't have to worry about targeting an audience. They didn't have to worry about some producer telling them to take this out. It was like all them, all their problems, everything that made them driven, everything that you feel through that music. And as the music gets along, they become bigger, they become more successful. But over time, a lot of people feel more disconnected from the music. Like Kanye with Graduation. Drake, I would say after Nothing Was the Same, I think that's where Drake started to disconnect a lot from people. Take Care was like the thing that really took him to that mainstream, and then Nothing Was the Same like solidified, but he still had that personal connection. And after that, that's when it became, I got private jet planes, I can't relate to anyone. That's when, you know, like John Mayer, he still makes really good music. His first album though, that is what connected him to people like him going through that time, that figuring out stuff part of your life. And over time, it's not the person's fault. Like, you're supposed to grow. You're supposed to change as things get better, as things change in life. Your opinions and how you go about it should evolve. How you talk should evolve. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. See, I just compare myself to Drake, Kendrick, and John Mayer. So, that tells you the type of ego I have. John Mayer probably has a higher body count in a year than I do subscribers. So, you know, I tell you that for what it's worth. You know, starting to feel more relaxed. I don't know when this episode is going to come out because I've been doing a lot of episodes, so I'm trying to put them out as much as possible. But I've been here relaxing a little bit. I've tried not to be as stressful. I know the last episode I did, I just lost my shit, and I'm sorry for that. But I got a desk now, so it's all good. Yeah. It's all about just relaxing, you know. Oh shit. But yeah, you know. That's the beauty. Yeah. But, you know, as I go through this life, I'm really, certain things about yourself you just gotta accept. But yeah. Anyways, moving on to interesting stuff. What's interesting? Not much, to be honest. Tonight's the finals. And I'll say it here. Game 4 of the finals was rigged. The fact that, you know, look, I don't like being I've always, and I talked about it, probably a couple weeks ago during the Pacers and Knicks and the Thunder and the T-Wolves. It's not about refs fixing games. It really is about they allow certain things at optimal times for certain teams at the most convenient times. It doesn't mean that they force their will for one team to win, but they open the door and they don't officiate favorably or evenly. I understand pro sports is not fair. It's a business. But what bothers me more than anything about this shit, to be honest, is simply the fact that I am just sick and tired of watching NBA games and there are just fouls called where if I was a ref, I would just be like, I'm not giving you that call. You had no intention of shooting the ball. You're leaning and moving your body. Harden, Shai Gilgeous, shit, James Harden in his prime, open the floodgates. The dude, people don't realize when James Harden was in his prime in Houston, part of his main game was just doing what Shai's doing now, but just slightly different because they just have different body types. But it doesn't. But I think also, to give Shai credit, he hasn't really been going to the free throw line crazy in the finals or even the last round of the playoffs because the NBA knew since it was being highlighted. He hasn't been getting as many calls. And he still is scoring 30 plus. So regardless of what you feel about Shai, all you have to say, the dude's a walking bucket. The dude is still dominant even without getting free throws. But just the game and what it's doing, we're all, after, to be honest, when I'm starting now to get into hockey, and you're watching hockey, UFC, and I know combat sports, whatever, but you're watching hockey, and the shit they fucking can do in that, the things you have to do to get in a penalty box for 5 minutes, And then in basketball, someone like gets a hard screen and it's a flagrant foul. It's like, what? It's ridiculous. And I've never really, but the playoffs, I've really enjoyed watching hockey. It's crazy. For me personally, I really just, it's stuff like the end of the game, the last 2 or 3 minutes. The Pacers lost the game because they didn't make buckets when it counted. They were missing free throws out of the ass. But when Shea's getting to the free throw line from the especially the one where he was starting over at the free throw area, dribbled to the left baseline, and Nesmith, and he leaned in. Nesmith did not foul him, but he just made the motion. They just gave him the foul. It's like, you cannot make that call if every time this narrative NBA shit we always talk about, you cannot give that call in the last 3 to 4 minutes of a game, regular season game, much less the fucking NBA finals. You can't do it. They wanted to eat because I know what the numbers probably show. If the series is down 3-1, there's probably going to be a little less viewership the next game. So they had to make it 2-2. All right. And that is why hold on a second. Let me fix some shit here. Yeah. All right, should be good. But yeah. It's stuff like that in the finals. I love basketball. I love watching the playoffs. I'm still going to watch it even after all that. But stuff like that makes people have a hard time taking the sport and taking the profession serious. Is when stuff like that is allowed and actively just, there's no, and it just seems like there's no urgency to make it better. So, I don't know. Bruh, I am printing a storm right now. All right. Yeah, it's just like, where do we go from here? I don't know, I will say one of the most, I'm going to talk about, because I've been meaning to talk about this guy for a long time. To me, the best NBA podcaster, deep diving analyst about teams, someone who actually does the fucking homework and is not one of these corny beat writers on ESPN and actually feels like he has real cachet of understanding the game, actually watches all the games, actually watches the teams, actually watches the players, cares about the draft process, is more into the process of basketball. And just whatever, I don't care what sport it is you're covering. If you just enjoy and love the thing, that's what attracts viewership. I do not, and a lot of these ESPN, Fox, analysts, beat writers, type of thing, insiders, they're all about the results. It's all these dramatic, the Cavs need to trade Darius Garland. For what? This whole, it was like a week or two. I'm like, when I watched the Cavs series, I did not think Darius Garland was the fucking problem. One, he was hurt. Two, he still played okay when he came back from being hurt. Your problem is you have Max Strus as one of your main perimeter scorers. That's your issue. Darius Garland is not your issue. You have no fucking bench. That's your issue. Inconsistent offense overall as a team. That's your issue. Not fucking Darius Garland. It's so stupid. But Ryen Russillo is, to me, the best. Because one, like, yeah, he's very dry humor type of thing. And they make the jokes on the ringer, like, hey, like, you watching the, yes, Wizard Hornets tonight? And he's like, yeah, Alex R, double ready. Weak side defense, you know. But it goes to show, like, it's a joke, like, he's watching the Wizards on a Wednesday night type of thing. But that shows that he's not just focusing on the top 6 teams in the fucking league, like these lazy ESPN analysts, or these lazy just analysts in general, because all they want to do is talk about the Lakers. Every time the Knicks are just competent, oh, this is the Knicks year. It's like, yeah, it's the Knicks year until Tyrese Halliburton's coming to your town. That's the thing. The Lakers barely made the playoffs. And I like LeBron. What the fuck are they doing in the playoffs? Every year, man, we just talk about the Lakers. If the Clippers are okay, we'll talk about the Clippers a little bit. We talk about the Knicks. We talk about the same 5, 6, 7 teams. And we don't talk about, and then when the teams that actually grew through the process that the league promotes, the draft and all that stuff, like the Cavaliers, then the second they are pretty good and they have a bad exit or whatever, a bad second round exit, and all of a sudden we got to blow up the team. It's like, no, you just got to get a little bit better. Blowing up your team is not the answer. Now, I'm not saying, trade 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, but if you're where the Magic are, here's some NBA, like, regardless if you think, yeah, that's a bit steep. But at the end of the day, if you're the Magic, chances are those 4 first-round picks are going to be, like, in between the 18 to 30 range. You're probably not going to get a player as good as Desmond Bane. This is an immediate, we need some shooting. We're almost there to compete at a legitimate level. Let's get a legitimate player now. Now, if you're Memphis, I honestly don't see their point of view. Great, you just traded your second competent guard in the backcourt, and you don't really have a good front court. And Ja has injury history. So, what's really the goal here? So people say what they want. It's a steep price, but the Magic are going to be a better team next year. The Grizzlies are going to be worse. So, yeah. But Ryen Russillo, to me, is the best. Because one, he gives a shit. Like, something I admire when I listen to this podcast, like, you can tell, regardless of what topic, what person he's interviewing, he has his open monologue and he goes over, the previous night in the NBA. You can tell he gives a shit more than just the Clippers, the Lakers, the Knicks. Like, it's about, like, he can cover the Brooklyn Nets with the same amount of depth as the Orlando Magic. He can cover the Portland Trailblazers with the same amount of depth as the Phoenix Suns. And that's really, and it's not just as simple. And one thing I like about him, it's not, sometimes their big get is, we're just going to talk about crazy trade options. They need to trade. It's always, we just need to blow up the team. You blow up the team, and then what? You get a bunch of draft picks. Half of them don't work. And then the ones that do work, someone asks for a trade. Someone gets hurt. Like, people just think, like, I honestly think draft capital is one of the most overrated assets in the league. I really do. People, like, yes, But, like, if you can get a sure-known good player in their prime, I don't give a fuck about 3 draft picks in 2027. It doesn't matter. I know there's bad examples of it. But at a certain point, you can't just be about, we're just going to wait another year and another 2 years and wait for a free agent. Then we're going to draft another role player to come off the bench. And guess what? You still suck. You're still meh. And then your star player wants to leave, and then guess what? Now you're 3 steps back. But great, you got all this draft capital of a bunch of second rounders that no one gives a fuck about. Even the Pacers. Oh, you know, they had to get Neesmith as a good role player. They had to trade for Tyrese Halliburton. The only player on the damn team that's been there the whole fucking time is Miles Turner. And they're always talking about trading him. It is weird how these playoff runs, even if a player's like not dominating, but just because of the exposure, if they just play relatively well at key moments, all of a sudden now we overblow the value. Like, oh, they're going to have to pay him this offseason. They're going to have to give him the max. It's like, do they? You know, I like Miles Turner, but I'm not giving a max contract to a guy who can't get 5 rebounds. I'm sorry. When you're the center, I'm not doing it. Same with Jaren Jackson. I'm not giving you a max contract if you can't average 6 or 7 rebounds. But anyways, back to Ryen Russillo. To me, I prefer him over Kendrick Perkins. I prefer him over anyone on ESPN except for, I don't even know if Tim Legler still works there. To me, the best NBA analyst going today is Tim Legler. Trying to think who else. Tim Legler by far. Because what makes him great is he has no problem saying when a player messed up or when like assessing a situation and being fair and not just being overtly dumbly critical. But he'll be honest about it. And it'll also expose when someone's getting too much blame and they're not like, well, look at these dumbass sets the coach is putting up. Now, he's like more of the TV ex-player, like legitimate analyst. To me, he's my favorite analyst. I think if he wanted to, he should legitimately be like the number 1 on the court in the finals analyst, my opinion. But whatever. And also, I gotta say, like, this whole criticism of the ESPN, Doris Burke, and Richard Jefferson, I listen to the game. I don't think they're that bad. I think 3-person booths are always, I personally, I don't really get it. Like, they've experimented with 3-person booths in NFL games at networks. It never really works that well. For basketball, it's too fast of a moving game to have 3 people. Like, there's not much time in between to really just do an analysis on things all the time. To me, it should just be simple. Mike Breen and then one other analyst. I think Doris is fine. I've always thought she was pretty good. Now, you know, is she like the should she be doing the number 1 games by herself? I don't know. But I'm not really professional. But I listen to games and it doesn't bother me. I think some people is just like, they just find stuff to be upset about. If you really want to be upset, since I've been watching a lot more baseball, these local baseball networks, oh my God, some of these color analysts are so goddamn biased and annoying as fuck. The absolute worst is the Texas Rangers, bro. This dude, I don't know what this dude was on. They were playing the White Sox, and this guy on the White Sox, I think Vargas, he's like the 9th. He was on 3rd base, and he was going back and forth with a player on Texas. Verbally, he's like, you just need to sit your ass. He basically, you need to just stand at 3rd base and shut up, you know. Hitting 170 the way you are. I'm like, God damn, bro. It's like there's no unbiased. And bro, he went on for 8 minutes. He went on 3 different segments in 3 different innings about because Kumar Rocker was pitching. And I think this analyst is an ex-pitcher. And he was going off about what they consider a cutter, a splitter, a sweet, like basically like a cutter is less than 7 miles per hour than a fastball. And then a sinker is it. I'm like, all right. It doesn't really matter. He's like, it just makes no sense. Like, everyone knows the fucking, like it's Dave Portnoy. Everyone knows the rules. You know, it's not, I guess the pitchers call whatever they want. It's like, well, the catcher's the one catching it. So it doesn't really fucking matter what you think. If it's a cutter, if it's a 2-seam, if it's a sinker, who gives an actual fuck? If it's a knuckle curve, did the person strike out or not? And then like 3 different, like the first inning he went off on it, like, all right, whatever. Then again in the next inning, it randomly came up. He's like, I guess there's a cutter, if that's what we want to call it these days. And then the 4th inning, it was like another. It was like, well, you know, back in my day, that would be a sinker, but I guess today it's probably a curved knuckle. And I'm like, bro, fucking relax. Jesus Christ. I mean, like, I understand, you know, you can't just be free balling, you know, picks out here, but I mean, but yeah, that's the thing with these baseball games. I was fortunate enough, and I think that's a recent thing. Basketball is not as bad, but it didn't used to always be like that. Because when I watched Braves games growing up on Sports South, it would be Chip Carey, Skip Carey, your mom's Harry, Jim Carey, Derry, and it would just be calling the game and then being like, you know, and it would just be calling the game what it is. Like, yeah, you want the home team to win. You have a incentive for the home team to win. But just saying, oh, well, this call's wrong. That's obviously a ball. It's like, bruh, it literally shows in the frame. It's in the strike zone. In the own strike zone that you guys artificially put up there. It's a strike. And in the inning before, your pitcher did the same 3 pitches. And it's like, well, because of his stance, you can't call. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, these guys, like, they find everything to just, what is it? Not cater, but just a fucking, I don't even know what's called. Pander. They're just pandering. But I will say, you know, watching the baseball, like, I haven't really watched baseball, but watching it again, it is kind of making me enjoy it again. It's not something I watch every night type of thing, but it is good to like kind of get back into it, enjoy just the simplicity. And also baseball is just much faster of a game now. It is not a 3.5, 4 hour game, bro. They get through those innings quick. That pitch thing ain't no joke. They do not play around with that pitch clock. Like, you were throwing that ball in 15 seconds or whatever the pitch timer is. And, you know, the weird thing, though, baseball is still one of those sports where it's, I still don't understand. Like, it is the one sport where the benches and the dugouts clear when there's just a slight, like a pitcher and a first baseman going at it, or a runner, and then they like yell at each other. And all of a sudden, people from the outfield dugout, there's a whole dugout right there with 20 people in it. Why do I need you 10 relievers where half of you would blow all the saves anyways? coming out there with your joggers on, and you all just stand around the field for 20 minutes for no fucking reason. It makes no sense. And that's the one thing. It's still kind of like, but then again, I watch a hockey game, and I'm just like, yes, they're just beating the shit out of people. I don't care if they stop the game for 10 minutes just for these two guys to fight for no fucking reason, bro. Like, that's a beautiful. People just fight for it. Could be personal. They literally, the puck drops open the game. Two guys take the glove off. Everyone stops. The refs just, here we go, skate around. And they just let them fight until one person falls to the ground or until they lose their traction. And I'm like, sports are great again. I'm starting to gravitate back to more of the OG sports. Like, the NBA is more of a past 20-year sport that's grown. Football is like the past 20. The main sports for the longest time were baseball and hockey, believe it or not. And now football and basketball have kind of overtaken that. But now it's almost like because they're not held to this corporate conglomerate that the NBA and NFL seems they need to succeed for viewership. Like, it actually seems like you're watching more of an authentic game with baseball and hockey. There's not a whole lot. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of shitty umpires. And then, there's shitty refs in hockey. Well, I don't know how you're a shitty ref in hockey. You don't call any damn fouls. It's like, you can literally watch a whole quarter. It does not stop. Yeah, there'll be an icing call, which is basically like a backcourt violation in hockey. Yeah, there'll be like stops for if the puck goes out or like, if the goalie stops it, then they have to restart play. But like for the most part, you're calling maybe a foul a game, maybe two. It's like very minimal. Like if you could just skate, you could be a hockey ref, bro. If you could just skate, But we also don't give hockey, I'm doing a whole podcast just glazing men. But, yeah. But, yeah, I think the beauty in sports now is the ones that aren't so overly, like, puppeteered. Ones that aren't overly manipulated. The ones that, at least they don't give the impression that they are overly, officiated. Today's drink, Welch's. Also, I feel like I do a movie review every podcast. I watch a lot of movies now. I've seen that Jackie Brown, the movie, has been available on this site that I watch. And to be honest, it looked all right, but I knew it was a Quentin. It's like the only QT film I haven't seen yet. And, well, it's not the only one, but... And I thought it would be, like, okay. So I didn't have, like, an urgency. And then last night I was like, yeah, fuck it. I was trying to find a movie to watch. I gotta say, man, first impression, I think that's legitimately Quentin Tarantino's best film. And I didn't realize, like, the whole thing from beginning to end was captivating. It's not a whole lot of violence. It's not like these crazy... It is a definition of you are following a storyline. And your obsession of character. And I hate using that term of character development type of thing. But in this instance, no one does it a whole lot better than Quentin. I gotta say, man. Like, you actually... get involved, like, without even realizing, you're watching, and the next thing you know, you're actually like, I'm caring about the bell bondsman. I'm like, this dude wants her. And I'm like, when is he gonna grab that ass? That's what you're waiting for. And at the end, it was a nice ending. And it was kind of like, he was intimidated, kind of felt scared or whatever, but was so utterly impressed. It's legitimately, I've watched a lot of pretty good movies lately, but like from a story, you could tell everything about that film's intentional. It's a 2.5 hour movie, and the thing is, sometimes people say like movies are too bloated, 2.5 hours, and it does seem like on the surface, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of people just talking about shit and stuff like that, and you kind of feel that in the moment. Sometimes you're like, damn, this scene's kind of long. It's just him smoking a bong with this girl. They're just talking about inevitable picture of her or whatever. And then you see how that connects to the next thing. You see how it all matters eventually. And it makes you appreciate a movie that is that long and every minute is intentional. Even if it seems like it's just dialogue. Even if it just seems like it's just whatever. Like, it has an intentional purpose. I just love, like, I was so goddamn impressed by the movie. It was so good. You know, it's weird. Having a whole space to yourself. Took the cat too. Didn't tell me that. You have a whole space to yourself. You look around. You're really like, you know, this ain't that bad. No, but in all seriousness, it's odd because there's this weird disconnect connection thing you have with someone where when you're around people all the time, we all take each other for granted. People live with each other a long time, marriage and not, siblings. We take them for granted. And we get annoyed when we're around each other so much. And yet, all of a sudden, then when you're not around each other, stuff feels weird. It's like someone that complains when you're all over them all the time. And then all of a sudden, you like take it back and then you haven't held their hand for 3 months. And they're like, what happened? It's like, you don't want me to touch you anymore. It's like, yeah, but I didn't really mean. And you're like, well, don't touch this. But yeah, good times. Also notice that we have a obsession with recreating tragedy. There's actually our first topic of this podcast. You know, there's a criticism of Peter Berg. He's a director. Him and Mark Wahlberg just basically do every fucking movie together. And all the connections of most of their movies, whether that's Deepwater Horizon, Lone Survivor, Patriot Day, they all have to do with pretty significant events that is either a national tragedy or a tragedy overseas where a whole troop lost their friends and stuff. And only one lone survivor. And there's a criticism online. That's the thing with these Reddit things. Is it kind of makes it like he creates this great action-packed film. Like, you know a film of his when you see it. It's very action-packed. It feels real. But there's a criticism that it's like he's someone who capitalizes on recreating tragedy. And they hide it behind art and telling a story. It's like, one, they've made like 7 of the 9/11 movies. Secondly, I don't know, it would be weird, like if I went through 9/11 myself, or if I was, the one person, the lone survivor, if I was Patriot Day and all that stuff, the Boston Marathon stuff, like, yeah, it's probably not something I want to relive and go watch a movie about. But you would also be upset if it was never resembled and appreciated in history as well. But if they make movies like that, where it's based off specifically an event that, should the people involved in that event get a form of distribution, I don't know, maybe they do. Should you really be able to profit over a certain amount when you make movies like that? If it's not an original film, if it's based off events that happen. I don't know, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm in a pretty good mood. By the way, recording this June 17th, 2025 for the archives. I made a pretty penny today. I actually had a good day trading. I actually made some money. Enough to pay for anything? Not really, but it feels good. It feels good to be disciplined. It feels good to actually have a day that works out for you and you stuck to a plan and it actually did something for you. But we're kind of in a weird situation politically right now, where we're getting involved in some stuff that I don't know if we should be involved in, but we're getting involved because if we don't get involved, we're going to end up being involved. So basically, if we don't voluntarily involve ourselves, we're going to have to get involved because it's going to get out of hand with this bombing with Israel and Iran stuff. So I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know whether we should be worried. I don't know whether we should be upset. One thing I will take away. So when I do my trading during the day, in the background, I typically have a TV show that goes on where they're literally live trading and all that stuff. When in the chat sometimes, part of a reality of when you're covering and trading, you have to know what's going on geopolitically, what's going on with any news that could affect the market moving, because it literally can dictate whether you win a lot of money or lose a lot of money real quick. And of course, when these events come up with war and stuff like that, children dying, people are going to get passionate about it. And there was a guy, Sharif, I don't remember the exact opinion, but basically he gave his opinion that he's not really a big fan of this war stuff going on. He didn't necessarily say he was anti-war. He just said, I don't know, this is not something to be happy about. This isn't really something we should want to be involved in. And this is not a good day, even if you're making money. And then there's people in the chat saying, oh, you're not educated, you're ignorant about what's going on and all this stuff. Just trade, shut up and trade. It's like you cannot be on a show that's about trading that involves current events, world events, and not have a thesis or opinion about this stuff. And ironically, what I've also realized about people is people always say you don't know what you're talking about when they talk about stuff. And typically those people, they're the ones who don't know what they're talking about. Because they just say you don't know what you're talking about because it irritates that they're even hearing something that may oppose their opinion about something. And it's funny because we all have basically the same access to information. And yet for some reason, people have the audacity to say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated. It's like we all have the same information. If people have read and gave their opinion on something, that's their opinion about it. However you want to put about war and stuff like that, war should never be something you want to do. It's something for defense purposes. You may have to do it. But even when you have to do it, it's not something you should be here and be overly thrilled about it happening. Because the result is thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people losing their lives. Including your own people. I'm almost, weirdly, I was impressed that only 8 people died from all these airstrikes going on. But it's all these keyboard warriors, it's people that give their opinions, but it's like he's giving his thoughts about something that has actively something to do with what they're doing. And people are telling him to don't talk about it. Like, it's like if there's certain things that even if it's not a political show, sometimes it involves politics. It involves current events that you have to at least be aware and have a sense of what's going on. There's always people in the chats that are so strong-willed about what should be said, what shouldn't be said, and all that stuff. I don't know, I just found it odd. It was kind of because he kind of just went, he's like, I can take you out of this chat faster than you create another Google account. I was like, damn, Sharif. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It is what it is. Few seconds and the thing pops out of place. I really don't get I really don't get this obsession with Tiana Taylor and Mufasa. There's people kind of going off the rails about some things about this couple. Saying when they're sitting together at an awards event, she crossed her legs because she feels guarded. And typically they do that when they're not safe with the person they're with. It's like, I don't know, she was smiling and it looked pretty safe to me. Who's going to fuck with that guy? You know? But yeah. My mind is in the gutter. And I don't mean like, thinking of dirty things. Like, my mind is drained. Oh, God. It's just... For me, I'm going to loosen up here. I'm going to loosen up my buttons, baby. It feels like we are just very restricted in what we can do, what we can feel, what we're allowed to have opinions on. What I mean by restriction is there's people out here who they have all this knowledge about stuff. They have these shows, these political shows where they'll have you be very impressed with their knowledge, with the way they speak, how they hone in on key points, even though if they are forgetting 70% of what the actual point they're talking about negate. But they have all these key points. They have all these, added chromosomes when they speak. And you just listen to some people, and you're like, this guy? There's a lot of footsteps going on. Whew. Yeah, this podcast, this episode is ass. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just having a hard time relaxing. Like, I'm relaxing, and I can't even relax. You ever feel like you're just like a message in a bottle. You're just floating out in the middle of the ocean. You're just right in the current waves. Can't really drink the water because you'll kind of die. You're just laying on your back. And I've never been able to be one of those people that can lay on my back and just float. I don't know, because my balance, even this lack of even distribution in the body. Big balls, you know, you sink from the butt in. And you're just kind of floating around on your back in the ocean. And at any moment, some just come from under, just psh, and you're done. But you just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. And you're just this floating message in a bottle. You got this deep message of what your life should be and how you want it to be. And it's just a simple scripture, but it's just floating out there. And you haven't been able to take it out of the bottle yet. Well, that's what it feels like to be on semen retention. It's been No Nut July, No Nut June, No Nut Mune. I'm immune to nutting. If I were the nut, bro, I mean, it's literally one or the other. It's a blank ceiling, or it's blank. Either the ceilings are getting blanked, or it's just a blank filling. Either way, you're feeling blank inside. Someone get this guy a blanket. Woolly mammoth. It's funny, all these manosphere guys can't even open a pickle jar, apparently. They always talk about men back in the day, men in the caves and stuff like that, and then they're working out in air-conditioned gyms, wearing gloves, doing pull-ups. You know? They talk about men used to fight. It's like they go to boxing rings and they fight with boxing gloves, and they fight people who are less better than them to feel better about themselves. They never actually challenge themselves to become a better fighter. But they know how to fight because they know how to choreograph a fight. So, by the way, thank you. Alonzo Minifield. Crazy upset for being Umar Sy. You want to know what my prep is for Saturday nights when UFC does and I'm doing my match-by-match prediction? I mean, I pick and choose which matches or whatever. I don't know most of the fighters in these prelims, but most of these fights are boring as fuck. When I see a crazy favorite odds, all I do is I go on YouTube, I watch like a minute of someone's fights and a minute of their opponent, and I make a pretty nice conclusion. This guy's slow, this guy's fast, this guy doesn't strike, this guy can defend strikes. And I've been right. But that's my prep. Actually, it's weird. I'm better at making predictions for sports I don't even know most of the people in than I am sports that I know all the people. I know their games. I know the game plan. But yeah, Times Square. It's funny because Times Square used to be not a tourist destination. That used to be where the down low of the down low would go. They used to have adult movie theaters. They used to have the nightlife, as they would say. Like crack was just being crazy over there. Like cracks of all kinds. And it's crazy how it's just amazing when a city really wants to make something a tourist destination. It's funny how quick that shit turns around, which just goes to show the only reason why certain places are allowed to have a lot of activity and stuff until they want to is until they have incentive. Like the real reason why, like people don't realize, I mean a lot of people do. But one of the main reasons why they moved Turner Field to where it is now is one, quote unquote, they could get more of people willing to drive in the traffic. It's a better location for people that are driving all the way out there anyways. They're probably gonna be willing to drive here too. It's kind of in the epicenter of a lot of activity. And they were trying to get out of questionable areas. That's really what it was. They wanted in a better location, which is nothing, I guess, inherently wrong with that. But that's the truth. When these governments and these cities that they force the taxpayers to pay that we didn't even agree, it's funny how they pass tax bills that the people will pay for, but we never actually get to have a vote of whether we want that bill to pass. It's kind of odd, don't you think? It's like, sure, we'll put this $10 billion tax deal for this unnecessary stadium that no one really asked for. But, you know, the point is, like, Times Square and that is when they really want to clean up a city to make it appearable, when they want it presentable, when they know they can make it a tourist destination, they're going to do it. We can do it. I haven't seen Happy Gilmore 2. Just by the previews, though, I'm good. There's certain, that prime Adam Sandler run of Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, Big Daddy, those like mid-level to movie theater films that he went on a run, The Waterboy, where it's just like can't miss. They're just good, wholesome, hour 45-minute films people can enjoy. Like those things they just shouldn't touch. And yet, I guess you throw someone enough money, he's like, well, shit. I can swing a hockey stick on a golf course still, you know? It's just like it's an impossible situation. Like the goal isn't even going to be we're going to make this as good. It is just going to be, hey, let's try to farm nostalgia more than storyline. Because all stories are the same now. Like, honestly, I am so tired of every TV show involving a dramatic, unnecessary in a series, and even in movies now, where it's always someone's mom died 8 years ago. It's always my brother committed suicide. It's always some unnecessary tragic shit. It's like, I don't need an unnecessary tragic shit for you becoming a motocross legend. Like, I was watching Mile 22 last night, going back to Peter Berg. And part of me was like, this whole, like, it was so unnecessary. The one girl who's going back and forth with her now ex-husband. They're going through a divorce for child custody, and there's this app they have to use to protect them. They can't swear, use unnecessary words because it's monitored by their lawyers or whatever. And she's like flipping out over every little thing about, oh, you need to get this and all. And then it didn't matter at the fucking end. It didn't matter. I'm like, why is this included? This movie should have been just straight up what it was. This Asian dude who's a triple agent. Focus on that. Not for a second did I give a fuck that she was a mom or that she was getting divorced. It was just because I guess they do these case studies. We gotta have some like sad shit. It's like, this is a movie about CIA operators running secret missions, getting shot in the fucking head. Like, It didn't do anything. It didn't add anything to the story. And all these old CW shows like The Flash, Green Arrow, all these, and by the way, like, these are good shows, but it gets to that rolling your eyes shit. When it's always an unnecessary dramatic part about, my mom, we broke up. It's like, who gives a fuck? Just be the fucking Flash. That's why they didn't make you the Flash. Everything's so goddamn emotional. That's the thing, man. They gotta make, like, all these movies have some deep underlying issue. Why the fuck did the light turn off? Sorry about that. The light turned off. Yeah. Everything's got to have a deep underlying sad issue of what's going on. Some movies and some shows, like, I get it to an extent, like this TV series. All right, like, I guess you got to have some reason, a love interest and all this stuff, but you got to understand what their motives are. But the thing is like, every show is the same goddamn motive. I feel like these people, they write these series, they write the movies and whatever. They don't even write them in, but then whoever looks at it like, hey, we got to add someone's mom dying in this. We gotta add that someone lost their wife 4 years ago. we just have to, man. This is what the people want. They're force feeding us sadness. Like, if I want to watch sadness, I'll watch fucking, I don't even know, just 7 Pounds. That shit was sad. Like, if I want to be sad, I'll watch Marley and Me. I don't need to watch. Like, when I'm watching The Flash, when I'm watching, CSI, I don't give a fuck about. It's just, they overblow the situation. It's like everything is the fucking same. And it goes across even foreign shows. I'll be overhearing my girlfriend's shows. She be watching some Japanese anime. She be watching some, like, foreign shows where they're speaking whatever, and then they're actually wolves and shit. And even then, they gotta add when I was 8 years old, my brother said I wasn't shit. No, we don't have a good relationship. And all of a sudden, they meet their dad 4 episodes later. They run into them, trying to connect with them, and then they realize their dad's not even their dad. It's a possessed being that someone's pretending to be their dad. And then they use some fake emotion to disattach the connection, and it's like, what the fuck? You could have used anything else. People eat that shit up, I can't even lie to you. I used to like watching the shit. I went on a marathon binge years ago on Netflix. One Tree Hill. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's a pretty sus show for a man to watch. But I'm not gonna lie. They have a formula that keeps you coming back. And that's what kept me coming back. I gave a fuck about Nathan and Lucas. I think those were their names. Nathan and Lucas, yeah. The whole thing was supposed to be about, then they become, they have the same dad. They have the same dad and mom and all this stuff. Well, they had different moms, but the same dad. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Lucas is more grounded down to earth. Nathan kind of grew up, in the rich part with his dad and stuff. But then he grew a strained relationship with dad from pushing him too hard. Then he actually grew closer to Lucas, but then they had a weird thing for a long time. And then it's just this endless. It's like the whole show. And looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I watched 9 seasons of just boys being in their feelings. About a dad that lived 10 minutes from them. The unnecessary drama, man, it gets you every time. But we're suckers for it. I complain about it, and yet I can say they shouldn't. It doesn't have to be so apparent. I think the issue with it, when it's in every show and movie, it feels formulaic, and it takes the attachment to the creator of the show that it makes. When it starts feeling like a bunch of other shit that you've watched, it kind of takes that uniqueness out of it. And it kind of makes it where, all right, this is just like 8 other things I could watch on this streaming service. It's the same show, it's just a different place that it's happening at. Some guy or some girl with daddy issues, or with, male or female issues. And then they got projected onto the world, and then they're a badass person, and then they can never commit because they're scared, and then they commit, and then someone hurts them, and it's this endless fucking cycle of rationalizing why they're an irrational person. So, it's birds and the bees. So, yeah. I want to create a show where it's like a satire of those shows. They do like those stupid parody movies. They don't really do them anymore. They went on a run in the mid-2000s. Or like epic movie. Started with scary movie. Then they tried to do like the epic movie. And all these other where it's like compilation parodies of movies within a movie. And looking back, they all sucked ass. With the exception of Scary Movie. They all sucked ass. Not any of them were funny in the slightest bit. Like, I want to do the same, but I just want to do it to make fun of all these cable, basic ass, same storyline shows. I feel like they're all just written by the same showrunners. I feel like, hey, look, if they don't have a divorced dad, if they don't have an abusive father, if they don't have a neglectful mother, we can't have it in the show. Like, why does this show even fucking exist? This is CW, Crying Woman. I know I keep picking on the CW, but Jesus, man. They make good shows. Like, the same shows I'm complaining about, I've watched episodes. The shows are good, and then like 18 minutes in, when there's some crisis of why they can't do something, and someone nudges like, is it because your dad? And they just look down like, I just never felt wanted. It's like, stop being a bitch and go save someone. It's like, maybe that's why I do what I do, because since he never cared for me, I got to care for everyone else. I'm filling a void. Maybe once in a while I just wish it was me. And you're like, oh my God. Just entertain me. God damn it. Like, I don't know, I get it, everything's formulaic, whether it's social media, scripted television, scripted movies. Like, everything is formulaic to a point where all you have to do is, like, read the synopsis, right? And even if it's like an action movie where it's like, CIA operative goes on a mission to save a hostage or whatever. It's like a very simple synopsis, and it's like a bunch of other movies like it, and then some are better than others. And you watch it with just like, I want to watch a decent movie for an hour and a half. And then 20 minutes in, he's doing whatever, but then he has a flashback of when he lost his daughter in a car crash because of a drunk driver, and he lives with that regret. and him and the wife have never been the same. They divorced, and she found someone happier. Then now he has to go on a mission, and then ends up finding out that it was his daughter. She was purposely killed by this guy who was sent because of X, Y, and Z, and blah, blah, blah. She wasn't the main target, but she just happened to be in the way, and it was an unfortunate series of events. And so then it's all the same. It all comes back because someone they cared about got hurt. For the movie. The whole fucking motive. And you know what? It's because us. We gotta blame us as consumers for this shit. Because you know what? If you go online with these film critics, it could be a greatly entertaining show. And they're like, you know what? I just didn't feel like they had motive. Who gives a fuck? They kicked a lot of ass. I don't give a fuck if the Avengers Endgame has motive. I don't watch the Avengers Endgame for Iron Man's motive. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about Black Widow's motive. I don't give a fuck. Not every movie is meant to have some deep interpersonal motive. That's where we get it fucked up. It's cool if it's well put together and all that's intertwined well, but it's not necessary. Because we got these films like you could put up a great 2-hour action-packed film, no filler, and someone be like, you know, I just felt like they could have gone deeper into this aspect of the story. It kind of took away the edge of the movie. And you're like, you know what? It didn't take away the edge for everyone else. I was fine they didn't have a love interest. Because you know why? It would have interfered and contributed nothing. I have an unpopular opinion. I haven't seen Deadpool in a while. But his love interest in the first one, not even necessary. There, I said it. Now granted, I'm pretty sure it was a big part. It's been a while since. But looking back, it didn't really feel like the love interest is all that necessary. Just there to be there. And that's the reality. For a lot of this stuff, artificial love interests, we got. And because now, I do believe, this is just my opinion, I think they make shows and movies more to be scared of criticism by making flat, non-controversial, make it not even controversial, just making non-interesting, making uninteresting, making it lacks compelling attributes. There's no edge. It's predictable. I think that's really where filmmaking has gone. Where really, I think the reason why the mid-film budget that people always talk about is not there, it's because they want predictability, because they want to know what sells, which I get it. You know, we could sit here and complain about studios they don't let artists be artists. They don't let directors just do whatever they want. Because you know what? Sometimes some of these directors, they will just waste your time for 3.5 hours with bullshit. They absolutely will. And yeah, sometimes studios will interfere and make some that would have been 2 hours and 15 minutes. They make them cut it down to 1 hour, 40 minutes. And it's missing a lot of good, interesting shit. It works both ways. Right? But what they don't do, but at the same time, like, yeah, they got to put out what they think will sell. Movies cost money. It's crazy how, I think it was like, for one of those Marvel movies, someone did the math for like literally every minute of film costs $8 million. From CGI to act, everything involved. It cost $8 million per minute of screen time. So you damn right. I don't care how much money Warner Bros. Makes in a year. If I'm invited, and especially if it's one of our main movies, like I don't give $8 million to 90% of the movies we budget. So yeah, if I'm cutting your hours from 3.5 to 2 hours and 45, you damn right, you're going to fucking do it. I don't care about your artistry vision. If you can't get it done in 2 hours and 45 minutes, you have a shitty vision. So yeah, there's two sides of the story. I can understand. And then there's ones that will just make what studios love. Predictable nonsense. And that's a lot of these Netflix movies. Like a lot of these forgettable Kevin Hart, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies. They're forgettable nonsense. Like The Rock hasn't... To me, his most interesting movies were actually... when he probably wasn't as good of an actor. When he was like first like still kind of a part of wrestling for real. And did like Walking Tall and shit. Doing those type of movies. Because he was like an action star. Nowadays, they're just doing like a bunch of forgettable Netflix movies that you can't name half of them, but you'll watch them. And then you're like, oh, that was cool. And you'll literally forget the name. Like Gerard Butler, man. I've been talking about movies a lot recently. I guess because it's based on my life. Gerard Butler. Actually, he's kind of in that phase. He went from like... he's one of the most interesting actors of the past 20 plus years. The man is the devil. Like, you would look at him, hear how he sounds, and think that he sounds like his voice from Jump. If you didn't know anything he's been in, you'd probably think he's like a one-dimensional type of guy. That dude has been in rom-coms. That dude has been in action-packed films. He's been King Leonidas. He's been the Phantom of the fucking Opera. Like, it doesn't get more diverse than that. You gotta be honest, like, and now he's kind of in that phase of like, I've done everything. I'm only gonna really just do films that I produce. He's kind of in that phase, which matters. And they're not like, blockbusters, but they're just good, decent movies. It's a lot of movies you'll find on Tubi. It's a lot of not White House Down, but Olympus Has Fallen, Angels Have Fallen, like that whole like franchise, small little franchise they got going. And he's kind of in that, he just does a lot of like Den of Thieves, just a lot of like the action films the films that we say don't exist. Gerard Butler's doing them. They're not crazy budget. They're not like these deep philosophical movies. I watched a movie called Kindhard, I think. Basically, he's like a undercover CIA in Iraq. Blows up some shit because it's like a plant or whatever. Like a secret plant they think it had going. Blows it up. Then they find him. And then it's just a good, decent, fun movie. None serious. It is like 2 hours long. And it does have a little of that, look. It does have he's getting divorced. He's got to get back to America because his daughter's graduating. And him and a wife are finalizing the divorce. So it was like, the second that happened, I was just like, oh, here we go. But once you get past that, it doesn't interfere with the movie. Just don't have it interfere with the movie. I understand you got to have the 5 or 10 minutes to explain what's going on in his life. Fine. But then you get past that, and then it's just him shooting chappies. And chappies is helicopters. I'm not making a slur there, okay? Shooting the chopper. Because sometimes we forget films are supposed to be entertainment. Sure, like there's certain stories that require like a legitimate like if you go into a movie like Moonlight, like that's the type of movie that you're gonna get in some deep shit about. So like there's a time and place you mentally have to be ready to watch that type of movie. Then that you can't be like that. You're entering a world where a lot of emotions, a lot of like you're going into real shit. It's not here to, watch Adam Sandler, play put, put the ball in the hole. It's not that type of thing. Go to your home. Like, there's a whole different space of mind. Like, it's not Grown Ups, the movie. You're watching. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but it's a pretty heavy movie. If you're going to watch, I haven't seen a movie, but Benjamin Button. That seems like a pretty serious movie. If you're watching, 10 Years of, 10 Years a Slave or whatever, like, yeah, it's a pretty significant movie. Like, you're watching movies where it has a deep, serious context to it. So you can't be mad when it gets into real shit, right? But if I'm watching, if I'm watching What Happens in Vegas with Ashton Kutcher, I don't really want to sit here and hear a back and forth between him and a girl at the casino talking about, I just never thought life would go like this. It's just like, just do some shit. No one watches Dude, Where's My Car for thinking you're going to get some deep underlying the newsroom Greg Daniels or Jeff Daniels type of monologue. Like, you're watching Dude, Where's My Car with a guy from American Pie and That 70s Shows. What the fuck do you think you're getting? But yeah, you know what? All in all, we only have ourselves to blame because we live in a hypercritical nature where every enjoyable film that comes out with every just fun shit that comes out, we gotta make it unfun. We gotta find the loopholes. We gotta talk about plot holes and shit like that. And people go on Reddit and just fuck movies that don't, and just make you think bad about movies that aren't even that bad. And then they'll tell you movies that are good that you watch them and you're like, this shit sucks. As in, we have these narratives where it's like, there's certain type of movies where because of the subject matter, we always got to make them Oscar, Emmy. Like, as much as I appreciate the Christian Bales of the world, as much as I appreciate actors that put on a lot of weight or get jacked for a role or have these crazy body transformations, sometimes we equate body transformations and it becomes a focal point of the movie and it becomes actually a driving cell because anything drastic change to humans is just shocking. And it's remarkable because most people don't have the capabilities to have that type of drastic transformation. Like Christian Bale did it for The Mechanic. I watched The Mechanic. A lot of people said the movie sucked. I didn't think it sucked, but it wasn't also really that great. It's not something I would have gone down to 135 pounds doing what he did to get ready for the movie for that. Absolutely fucking not. But he's committed to the craft. And then he got jacked for Batman. And then over time, he lost all that weight again to be a trainer to be Mickey's brother for The Fighter. And he gained all the weight back to be Dick Cheney. And so, as admirable as all that stuff is, that just the body transformation, which is, first of all, it's insane that Christian Bale has never, I don't think he's ever won an Oscar or an Emmy. any of that stuff, which is insane within itself. But sometimes it becomes such a focal point of everything involved. We just think dedication equals awards. We think anyone playing something absurd, completely different from themselves, is automatically good acting. Or playing a certain type of character, even when you are that in real life, because it's an impactful, emotional character, makes it good. There's certain subject matters, like, it's kind of hard to fuck it up, you know? It's hard to fuck a movie up that's about, for example, it's hard to fuck a movie up in terms of people will despise it if it's about race. And I mean that in a way that if you're making a movie about racism, like, people are already emotionally sensitive and connective to it for a lot of different reasons, no matter what ages you are. So people by default are always going to kind of give it the benefit of the doubt, even if the storyline sucks, even if the acting isn't good, but because the impact of the story is great. You can't sit here and say, I can't even think of a movie off the top of my head, but let's say, Remember the Titans, which was a good movie. But even if that movie was trash, even if the acting was trash, even if it wasn't Denzel and they put some other guy in there that fucked up the movie, that movie still would have been held in high regard just because of the story. Just because of what it represents, the unity it brought. It's kind of like a Christian movie. You know, like those Christian movies they make these days where the football is always terrible in the movie, but it's always about finding God and finding peace and all that stuff. And finding your purpose, overcoming obstacles. It's really like a Christian film with a little racism, you know? That's the Bible Belt, all right. Get over here, boy. And that movie shows one thing about sports that will stand the test of time. Hey, they may be racist, but when it comes to winning, they'll put the racism aside for a little bit. You know? Some things never change. So, yeah. I watched Ohtani last night pitch. Last night, he pitched for the first time in, like, basically 2 years. You know, we always hear that he can pitch, he can hit. And I always, you know, typically when people do both, they're exceptional at one and then they're pretty okay at the other. It's just impressive that they can do both at that level. I didn't realize how actually good of a pitcher. Now, he didn't necessarily pitch great last night. He didn't necessarily pitch bad. I mean, he hadn't pitched in over 2 years in live action. So he was a little erratic, but he's still, I'll watch like, damn. That's some movement on them sliders, bro. Whatever the fuck he was. I don't even know what fucking pitches he was throwing. But he was throwing hard, and that shit was moving. I looked at his stats. I'm like, shit, he actually has legitimately good stats as a pitcher. And then during the broadcast, and this is what happens when you pay a guy $700 million, whatever they're paying him. It's funny. They kind of snuck it in. You read in between the lines. They're basically like, yeah, Ohtani said he wanted to start pitching again. And the Dodgers are like, yeah, and then he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to pitch tomorrow night. And they're like, yeah, I guess you're pitching tomorrow night. There wasn't really much. I think they tried to contest, like, yeah, maybe wait. He's like, nah, I want to pitch to the Padres. And they're like, the Padres? You sure? He's like, yeah, I want to pitch to Tatis. Luis Arias and Manny Machado. He's like, oh, okay. But it's weird. He said he identifies more as a pitcher than a hitter, which just puts the rest of y'all to shame who hit in the MLB. Like, it's weird. Like, you're watching him pitch, and you're like, I don't know. He's pretty damn good. I honestly do think over time, like, people talk about playing two ways in sports, like Travis Hunter. Honestly, don't see him playing both ways in the NFL. It's not because he's not capable. And it's not even because, like, I'm not even going to sit and say, like, one of these, oh, you can only dedicate so much time and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously. I just think what's going to happen is defense or off. I think eventually he's going to just basically be mostly a wide receiver. But I think what's eventually going to happen is he's going to get burned a few times on defense. They're going to attack him because they're going to try to prove a point. He's a rookie. He's going to be a rookie corner. They're going to try to attack him. If he allows a few too many catches or too many deep passes, he's getting burnt or whatever, then, you know, that exposure may be more damaging to him and people's perception that now they're going to be like, oh, well, you're burning him on both. You're burning both ends of the candle. Then it's going to get in there like, you know, hey, we're just going to have you 80% here, come in situation. Then it starts there, and then over time, it's going to be like, yeah, no, you know. But the whole appeal of him is playing both ways. And Ohtani is the same thing, but I really just think over time, honestly, if it were up to the Dodgers, I don't think they would have him pitch at all. There's something about, I feel like even looking at the coach, like it feels like they don't really want him to pitch because they don't want that risk of injury. But at the same time, you're paying $700 million. Even today's market, like, you know, Jesus, like, I'm not paying him just to go to the plate 3 times a game, you know, at the same time. But he's a draw. And I think the only reason why they have him pitch here and there is probably to keep him happy. And 2, because of the extra attention. The MLB is like, nah, you're going to let him pitch. And they're like, yeah, but it's not good for his shoulder. Or like, yeah. But have you seen the spike ratings in Japan? And when he's on TV? It is real. He is one of those legitimate draws. Like, he's one of those that people will illegally stream. No matter. Like, people don't care about. Like, it's hard for people to go watch a game outside of the regional. If there's not a real draw. Like, people, like, yeah, people will watch the Yankees. People legitimately just watch Shohei. Avid baseball people. It's that type of draw. By my projection, I do think probably they'll let him pitch, but if he has like another type of injury of any type from pitching, I think they're going to hang it up. Because it's really not, like, is it really worth? Because if he just wanted to continue pitching, he would be just on a bad team where they would let him do that. You're the Dodgers, like, you know, we got plenty of talent, you know. We honestly don't even need you hitting. I mean, obviously they do, but you know, they're just stacked, bro. And the thing about Shohei is you can't even dislike him. Like, there's some stars you could dislike them. They come off as arrogant. Like Rafael Devers, who just got traded to the Giants, I believe. Like, there was an issue with him. Like, they want him to play first base. He's like, nah. And to be fair, or it was like first and third base. He's a DH. They wanted to play to help the team out because they had injuries. He's like, no, all off season, I wanted to play and you said no. So I was like, fine, I'll settle into being the DH. And then, hey, you should be a team player. We're paying you. He's like, nah, I'm a DH, remember? And they traded him. So, with people like that, when that whole thing, there was people that were, oh, you get paid all this money. He's not a team player, not doing his best for the team. And then Shohei's out here, DH, pitcher, whatever the fuck, Baseball's in this unique position where I think for the first time in a long time, their best players, I would say they're two face of the league hitters, especially. Probably just face of the league. You got Aaron Judge and Shohei playing in the two biggest markets in America. Aaron Judge is raking at an all-time level. Shohei, his average isn't, Aaron Judge's, but he's leadoff and he has 25 home runs. And he had a slump this year. But it's just every time he's at bat, bro, it's an event. Your two faces of the league in the two biggest markets, two dudes that are big as hell, two dudes that draw on national television, and two dudes that are likable. Aaron Judge is a leader, a captain, and all that stuff for the biggest franchise. And Shohei, although he's not vocal and all that stuff, just his presence is a different animal. So your two faces of the league in their prime are legitimately, you could not ask for it any better way. And baseball, I don't know what they got to do, but they got to capitalize on this. You need to have the Yankees and Dodgers playing each other 80 games a year. Fuck the divisions. Fuck the schedule. Even if it's just 2 months straight, the Yankees versus the Dodgers. From April, or, first 3 months, give them a break. From July to September, Yankees versus Dodgers. Everyone else, you could play each other and fight for whatever. And then I don't care what the records are. You two are going in the playoffs, and you're playing each other in the World Series. That's how it's going to work. So, yeah. Oh, God. I think I'll end the episode there. So, yeah. I don't even know what episode this is. I'll probably merge it on into one because I got a lot of episodes loaded up. So, yeah. Don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. Meep, meep.